How to solve quadratic equations. The first thing that you do, you must identify you have a quadratic format. And a quadratic format is always given as ax squared plus bx plus c. So if you have x squared, x, and a constant on your equation, this will mean that you have what? You have a quadratic format. So you can do what? You can factorize. So the first thing that you do, you must make sure you have a quadratic format. So now let's look at the first problem that we have. The first problem we have 2x squared plus 3x equal negative 1. So by looking at this equation, we have x squared, we have x, and we have a constant. So this means we have what? We have a quadratic format. So this means we must move everything on one side of the equation. So now we're going to move this negative 1 to this side. So this thing will just simplify to be what? 2x squared plus 3x. And then when the negative moves to the other side, it's going to be positive 1. And therefore we have equal to 0. The other thing is that before you factorize, you must make sure that you have 0 on this side of the equation. And therefore, you're going to factorize this quadratic expression. So if you don't know how to factorize a quadratic expression, please look at the link below. And then you're going to look at the previous video that I did on how to factorize trinomials. So when you factorize a quadratic expression, what you do, you open two brackets. And then you say, now, how can you write the first term? So the first term is 2x squared. You can write the first term by saying 2x multiplied by x, because everything on this side will multiply with everything on that side. So this 2x will multiply with x, and then we have 2x squared. And then the second step is that we look at the factors of the last term. So the factors of the last term is just 1 and 1. But because now this first factors of our x squared is 2 and x. So this means now we are going to multiply one of the factors with 2 here. So whatever factor that we multiply with 2, it means that we're also going to look at the last sign. The last sign is positive. So we're going to decide which factor we're going to multiply with 2, so that when we add the factors, we get the middle term, which is 3. So in this case, we can multiply any factor by 2 here, because we're just going to have 1 and 2. And then if we have 1 and 2, that will add up to be what? To be 3 here. So that means we're just going to put the factors 1 and 1. And then you always make sure that the factor that will multiply with 2 is on the other side of the bracket, so that it can multiply when you multiply out. And the last thing that you have to do, you have to see now, okay, this last sign is positive, therefore my signs are going to be the same, but they will take the sign of the middle term. So they're going to be both positive. So when you solve here, you're going to apply what is called the zero factor law. So the zero factor law says that if this whole thing is 0, therefore 0 multiplied by anything is going to be 0. Or if this whole thing is 0, therefore 0 multiplied by anything is 0. Therefore, this thing on this side is going to be equals to 0. So we're going to say what? We're going to say 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, or x plus 1 is equal to 0. And therefore, to solve for x, we just transpose this to the other side. So we have 2x equals to negative 1. We divide both sides by 2, and therefore the value of x is negative 1 over 2. Or in this case, the value of x, when you move the 1, is going to be negative 1. So that is how you find the values of x on quadratic equation. So you will know that if you have a quadratic x squared, you will have 2 values of x. So now let us look at the second problem. On the second problem, this thing is already on the standard format. So what we have is we have 3x squared plus 2x minus 1 equal to 0. So that means we can just go straight and factorize. So when we factorize, we open two brackets. And then we say, now, how can we write this first term here? So the first term is 3x squared. So it can be written as 3x multiplied by x. And therefore, we say what? The factors of the last term. So the factors of the last term is just 1 and 1. So now remember, now we're going to look for the factors that when we subtract them, they give us 2. But now one of the factor must multiply with this 3 here. So because it's 1 and 1, we can say this is 3. So 1 multiplied by 3 is just going to give us 3 here. So now if we say 3 minus 1, that's going to give us 2. So the factors is 1 and 1 are correct. So you put the original factors, which is 1 and 1. So but now you make sure that this one that is going to multiply with what? With 3 is on the side, in case if it was not 1 and 1. So after you do that, you're just going to look at your signs now. You say now, okay, your last sign is negative, therefore your sign is supposed to be different. But now the bigger number will take the sign of the middle term. So which one is the bigger number? The bigger number will be this one, because this one is going to multiply with what? With 3x. And that's going to be positive 3x. So that's going to be the bigger one. So this is positive and this is negative. And therefore from there you apply the zero factor law. This is equal to 0 or that is equal to 0. So we have 3x minus 1 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. Therefore you just transpose this to the other side. We have 3x equal 1. You divide both sides by 3. Therefore your value of x is just 1 over 3. And therefore here you move this to the other side. You're going to say x is equal to negative 1. So now let us look at the last problem. So on the last problem, we can also see now we have what? We have a quadratic expression. We have x squared, x, and constant. But now our coefficient of x squared is just negative. So if this is the case, you just transpose everything to the other side of the equation. So remember, when you transpose everything, everything will change the sign. So when this moves to the other side, it's just going to be what? It's just going to be 2x squared. And therefore that when it moves to the other side, it's going to be negative 4x. And then that is going to change to be positive 2, and then we have this equal to 0. Therefore, if we have this, we can just factorize. We know when we factorize, we open two brackets, and this is equal to 0. We say now, how can we write this 2x squared? We can write 2x squared by saying 2x multiplied with x. So we're going to say now, what are the factors of the last term? The factors of the last term is just 1 and 2. So we're going to say now, okay, the factors that when we add them, they give us 4. But now we know that these factors, one of them will multiply with the 2 here. So which one must multiply with 2 so that when we add them, they give us 4? So that is 1 must multiply with the 2 so that when we add them, they give us a 4. So this is going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. So that means this one that is multiplied with 2, we must put it on the side where it's going to multiply. Remember, this 2 here will multiply it like that. And therefore the other factor, which is 2, it just remains on the side. So we also now look at the signs. We say now the last sign is positive, so our signs are going to be the same, and they're going to take the sign of the middle term. So they're going to be both negative. And therefore what we have is that we're going to apply the zero factor law. To say now we have 2x minus 2 equals to 0, or x minus 1 equal to 0. So when we solve here, we move this to the other side. We have 2x equal 2. We divide both sides by 2, and therefore the x is equivalent to 1. Therefore, you also move the 1 to the other side. So that's going to be x is equal to positive 1. So in this case, x is just 1. Okay, so that is all we have for this video. Thank you very much.